guys, welcome back to my channel. I am finally back tonight to do my book review for the books that I hauled in my last book haul video of the books that I was hoping to read for the months of September and October. I was trying to kind of go along with the Halloween scary horror theme to kind of give myself some motivation to read, because I had mentioned that I have not read as much as I would like, and over the last couple years that's kind of been something that has dropped off for me, so I'm trying to get back to that, and I felt like this was a good way to kind of keep me accountable. So I will link that video down below if you did not see it. But of those books, I think I actually ended up with 8 books in that haul. One I did not have in that video because I had actually already pulled it from the pile and started to read it, so that one did not get into that video, but it was one of the books that I did read. So I ended up with 8 books total, was kind of my target. I was overshooting, I know. I wasn't real confident I was going to get through all 8 of those. I got through 6 of them, so I feel like I did pretty good. So just coming back to give you a little recap of what I read, what my thoughts on the books that I read. So first up, I read this book, The Dark Witch by Nora Roberts. I think I mentioned in my last video, I'm not a huge Nora Roberts fan. I have read a lot of her books over the years, and some of them I did really enjoy, but she typically tends to write more of a romance, sappy type of book, and that's just not me. So I wasn't confident I was going to love this book, but I thought, you know, it was worth a read. It's about witches. So I picked this one up. It is book 1 of a trilogy about this family. So if that's something that interests you and you like Nora Roberts, maybe you want to check it out. For me, this book was not great. It starts with the story, the main character kind of deciding to leave her job, sell all her belongings, basically start a whole new life in the States, and move to Ireland, where her family is from, and kind of recreate her life. So of course she goes there and seeks out some of her family, some cousins who are obviously witches. So it kind of goes into the story of that. Obviously there's some romance that develops along the way as well. That's pretty much the premise of the story. But for me, this was just, it was very superficial, I guess is the best word I could use to describe it. For me, what makes a really good book is character development and the development of, or the explanation of the location where the story takes place. And that was really lacking, I feel, in this book. The characters were just not well developed. I didn't really have any didn't feel drawn to any one character in the book, because I didn't feel like she did a good enough job of kind of making you feel like you knew that person. So for me, that was a failure. And then the book also takes place in Ireland, and that's a place that fascinates me. I think it looks beautiful. I would love to visit there someday. And I feel like when I read a book and it takes place somewhere like that, or a beach community, part of what really makes me love the book is feeling like I can envision this story taking place there, because the author has done such a good job of describing the location, and that was definitely lacking here as well, which was disappointing. One, because it was Ireland, but also I feel like, in all honesty, this book could have taken place anywhere. That's how poorly I feel that piece was done. So I don't know, maybe I'm being a little harsh. I don't know. Like I said, I don't dislike Nora Roberts. I have read some of her books that I really enjoyed, and I just feel like this wasn't up to par with the way that she typically writes. So I'd be curious to see if anybody else that is a Nora Roberts fan if you read this book and get that same feeling, because I don't feel it's just me not liking Nora Roberts books in general. I that's not it. I just didn't feel this was well written. So this was not a winner for me. I will not be planning to read the other two books in the trilogy because I just didn't love it. It wasn't awful. I made my way through it, but like I said, it was very superficial to me. So enough about that. The next one is the one that I mentioned that I read that was not in the haul video I did because I had already started reading it. And that is The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware. She also wrote The Woman in Cabin 10, if anybody's read that. I devoured that book, so this one has been in my pile for a while, and I figured this was a good time to dive into it for this kind of challenge for the Halloween season. I really enjoyed this book as well. It is about a woman who decides to seek out a job working as a kind of live-in nanny for obviously a family that's very wealthy. So she gets hired and moves to this beautiful home in this beautiful location, and is well paid. It seems like this great job. She quickly discovers something weird is going on. The parents are gone a lot. Weird things are happening in the house. There's some issues with the children. Something's definitely off. But ultimately what happens is one of the children ends up dead, and she finds herself in prison awaiting trial for murder of this child. So that's basically the premise of the book. I really enjoyed it. I read it very quickly. So I would definitely recommend this one. Again, it's called The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware. The next, I dove into some books that were kind of also outside of my normal reading. Ray Bradbury, obviously well known. This is a collection of short stories called The October Country, and I really enjoyed this. This was a great little read for this season. Some of the stories were better than others. There was some little creepy elements to some of them. Some of them were a little spookier than others. But with it being short stories, it was a nice thing to just pick up and be able to read 20 pages and get a little through a story, set it down for a while, come back to it. I read this one, I think, pretty quickly as well. I can't really give a review or kind of a recap of the stories, because how do you really recap a short story? Because it's a short story. But I will say some of the ones that I enjoyed the most from this were the first one, which was called The Dwarf. I enjoyed The Skeleton, The Emissary, The Small Assassin, The Crowd was a good one. The Scythe, I also enjoyed. So there's, I don't know, I'd say 15 short stories in here about, and I enjoyed most of them. There was only a couple that I was just kind of like, yeah, okay. But it did definitely have kind of a spooky Halloween feel to it. So this was a good book to choose for this. So I also enjoyed this one. Then spinning off of that, the other one I had is another Ray Bradbury book. This one is much shorter. It's just less than 150 pages, I think. This one is called The Halloween Tree. And I really enjoyed this one too. It is about a group of friends of young boys that go out on Halloween night, and they find themselves on this adventure to find their missing friend. And through the course of the story, they learn about the history of Halloween and Halloween through the ages. And it's just it was a really fun book, and it definitely had a good Halloween feel. I almost feel like I might reread this because it is very short. I might reread this next year, like the night before Halloween or the week before Halloween, because it's a really good kind of Halloween feel story. So I would definitely recommend this one as well. Sorry, my dog's barking in the background. The next one I read was another also short story. This is a book from my childhood that has been a favorite since I first discovered it. I believe a teacher read it to us in like second grade, called The Wednesday Witch. And basically it's a cute little book about a little girl who discovers this cranky little witch and her pet cat and a flying vacuum that the little witch rides. and kind of just the adventures and fun little things that happen between all these characters through the course of this book. It's a very cute story. It's a very quick read. If you have kids, specifically probably girls, around that second, third grade age, I think it's a story they would really like to read. Or if they're a little younger even, might be above their reading level, but something maybe you could read to them. It's just a cute story. I was really glad I picked it up again. I've read it several times over the years, but I was glad I revisited. I think I sat down and read it in one sitting, cover to cover, within a couple of hours, if that. But it's just a really cute little story and great for Halloween. The last one in the haul that I read was Dr. Sleep by Stephen King. And this book did not disappoint. A lot of people had said it was a good book and I would enjoy it. And I think I mentioned in that video how I used to love Stephen King, and somewhere along the way, his books changed and the stories changed and he kind of lost me. So I hadn't read Stephen King in a really long time, but some of his books are probably some of my all-time favorites. So this absolutely, like I said, did not disappoint. It obviously is the sequel to The Shining and follows the life of Danny after The Shining. And it definitely had a very Shining feel. It felt very traditional, old school Stephen King to me, and I really enjoyed it. So I'm glad I decided to pick this one up. Basically, again, following the life of Danny. He's trying to kind of get his life together, get back on track, settles into a little town, and essentially meets this young girl named Abra, who also appears to possess the Shining herself, and she's reaching out to him for help. Through the course of the book, there's also the story of this group of people called the True Knot, who are kind of, only way I can kind of describe them is like a cult. They travel the country by RV, seeking out people that possess the Shining to kill them, whatever. So that's kind of the basics. But I really enjoyed this. It had a very traditional Stephen King feel to me, which made me happy. So I enjoyed reading this one as well. So I had two other books I didn't get to. One was a reread for me, so those will just stay in my pile and I will get to them when I get to them. But I'd say overall I'm pretty happy with the ones that I finished for the month. I did better than I probably thought I was going to do, to be quite honest. I'd say I read 6 out of 8, not too bad. And then I've got my pile I shared with you in my last book haul video that I plan to start now in November. So if you guys have any thoughts on any of these books, if you've read them yourself, or if you have any recommendations based on the books here that I read that I enjoyed, that you think I might also enjoy, I'd love for you to comment down below. I'm always happy to hear a good book recommendation. And again, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you are notified of any upcoming videos that I post, this type of content that you might also be interested in watching. And once again, I thank you guys all for stopping by. I appreciate it, and I hope you all have a great night.